closing public comment. Thank you for your ideas and concerns. You know, it's interesting. I rode the bus last week, and I know that the drivers were trying to figure out, and the management was trying to figure out who the driver was who was responsible for passing up that person. It caused a great deal of concern among the staff and the management because the transit prides itself on good customer service. So I know that they're looking into that, trying to find out what driver it was that passed someone up. Don't want that to happen.
Yeah, it was first brought to our attention last Tuesday, and to management's attention for the very first time last Tuesday. So the manager did say she'd look into it.
Yeah.
Certainly isn't acceptable.
Not acceptable, and it seems like it's a pretty simple thing to do if the person complaining and say what kind of these incidents took place.
I noticed when I went by, got some gas at the village store at Quilcene, that I talked to the manager, and he says that they should be stocking food sometime this week. And I noticed also that there was an application in for beverages of all sorts. So it's really good to see that organization coming along. You know, when I was in the Army, one of the jobs I was given as a junior officer was to inventory rifles, machine guns. And there were quite a few in the military. I was forced to do kind of a random check, which seemed to be okay. Now, there's no guarantee that some rifles weren't stolen. Or weapons, you know, call them rifles, they call them weapons. So I've been doing that since I started, and it's very interesting to see what the huge variety of equipment that the county has, right? Bench presses to these massive machines that will bend steel if you have an accident with a vehicle, to filing cabinets. And I've always found the equipment to be there. And I agree with Mr. Tiersch. It's possible that out of the thousands of items, there may be something missing. We do our best.
Yeah, I have a comment about, I'm sorry to hear that the McLeods had equipment stolen from their barn. But our public infrastructure fund is a special fund for infrastructure, and it wouldn't get us another sheriff or deputy sheriff. It's true, the budget's tight, and as the economy goes down, there is more activity amongst criminal types. So, but I just wanted to make sure that you understood that the infrastructure fund money, roundabout money, cannot be used for hiring an individual.
Yeah, I think that's often a source of frustration when people see restricted funds that can only be used for a narrow focus. Where else, appreciated the distinction between prevention and reactive issues, and don't doubt Mr. DeMico saying that he had one of his better years last year. And there are no limits to how many people he can have employed. You know, there could be security guards all over the place if people so choose. But we do have a limited budget when it comes to what we have to prioritize. So we do take that very seriously every year.
Well, I think it's reflected in our general fund. It's, I think, over a third of our general fund goes to public safety. I think Mr. D'Amico's not giving himself enough credit. I think he does an excellent job of advertising. I can't open up my computer without seeing an advertisement for Security Services Northwest, or I can't open the newspaper without seeing that police dog staring at me. So you'd have to be illiterate not to know about the good services that are provided by Mr. D'Amico's organization. It keeps the newspaper in business.
And the other thing I'd want to address is I like Mr. Tracy's idea, although it lost me a little bit with the reference to the biblical reference there about what was happening in the Reformation, whatever time it was. Trying to remember my history there, but it is a good idea for people to understand what the process is, particularly as it's changed over time. And I think that would be a good type of workshop for us to have at some point. I know staff's working on a response to the issues that Brenda Millen brought up, and so I'm looking forward to hearing that. But yeah, it's going to be important as we go forward with a lot of the different planning issues that are going to come up in the future to get the information out there and have a reference point, where people can go and say, oh, this is how it works in usable form. Always a good idea. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, the importance of case law, I think is probably not known to most lay people. It certainly I wasn't aware of how powerful case law is. There is the law, and then there's the case law. That's how it's interpreted. And so the ultimate power rests back and forth between the judiciary and the legislative branches. The administrative branch goes trying to keep up. Do have Mr. Would the county administrator have any comments?
I would agree with your comments, commissioners, that the county does do the best job it can and takes its fiduciary responsibilities seriously for the assets that, as a government entity, that we hold on behalf of the citizens of this county and that ultimately are owned by the citizens of this county. We recognize the responsibility we have in that regard and take it seriously. I think there are checks and balances in place, and I think if I recall correctly, I believe the issue from quite a number of years ago now, the inventory issue that was raised as to the sheriff's inventory, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Belinsky, but didn't that get investigated by the state?
Waiting for a letter from them.
So I think there has been follow-up on that item. What we are trying to do is to make sure that we keep track of things as accurately as possible. And for example, I know that the auditor's office, the treasurer's office, and my staff have been working with Jeffcom recently to try to make sure that it had a complete and accurate inventory of its equipment that would be listed. So I'm personally aware of the efforts that we go through to try to make sure that there's an accurate inventory. And then on the issue of that has been raised by Mr. Tiersch on a couple of occasions regarding the process we go through and the means we use for disposal of surplus IT equipment. What I would suggest is it might be helpful to a meeting in the future to schedule some time in the morning session for Mr. Shamley come in and explain in person precisely what it is that they do and to answer questions that you might have.
It would be a good idea to have an accurate idea of where all this stuff goes. And I know some of it does get out there. I was just approached at Farm Fresh out there in Chimicum when I stopped in for lunch last week. There was a group of students from Chimicum there, and two people working with them, Marcy and Steve Ham, and they're thanking us for the computers that they got through this process. Those kids were using. So it would be a good idea to have more than antidotes, though. To have quantifiable information and say, okay, I know where this is going. And if we have an idea of once we get it to a place that is supposed to recycle it, what really happens to it? Is that effective or not? That'd be good information to know.
So we'll schedule that for a future meeting. And that's all I had, Commissioner.
Okay. We have a consent agenda before us.
Commissioner, in taking on the consent, I'd like to note that one of the items, actually, the inventory, you'll note a familiar name on there, and that is Erin Lundgren. And Erin is in the back here, and this is her first day back with the county. I am doing a happy dance. So she is our clerk of the board and a human resources manager, and brings, I believe, 19 years of county experience, previous county experience with the city of Fort Townsend, in-depth knowledge of how the county operates, and many of us within the government and in our citizenry, and has excellent relationships with all, and brings integrity and professionalism. We're just delighted to have you here, Anna.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here.
Welcome back. Yeah, perfect.
So with that,
We do have a consent agenda.
Okay, I'll move consent agenda.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded that we adopt the consent agenda. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. It's unanimous. The next item on our agenda is